The archive room was silent, except for the soft hum of ancient data storage units. Turin ran his 6 fingers across the control panel, watching streams of information flow across the holographic display. As the Council's chief archivist, he had spent decades organizing the galaxy's history. He thought he knew every secret hidden in these vaults. He was wrong. The error message appeared suddenly, breaking his concentration. A data corruption alert flagged a series of files from 300 years ago. Turin frowned, his facial tendrils twitching with curiosity. Corrupted files were rare. The Council's storage systems were designed to last forever. He opened the first file. Static filled his screen, mixed with fragments of text. Most of it was unreadable, but certain words jumped out at him. Coordinated Erasure Protocol. Sol 3. Unprecedented aggression. Total information quarantine. Turin felt a chill run through his body. An erasure protocol? He had never heard of such a thing. The Council had strict rules about preserving information. Erasing data was considered a crime against history itself. He spent the next several hours digging deeper. Each file he found was more damaged than the last, as if someone had deliberately tried to destroy them. But whoever did it had failed to finish the job. Small pieces remained, like shards of broken glass. One file contained a fragment of a star chart. Turin recognized most of the systems marked on it. They were in the outer regions of Council space, near the border territories. But one system had been circled in red with a note that simply said, Primary Target. The system was labeled Sol. Turin searched the current star charts for any system called Sol. Nothing came up. He expanded his search to include historical designations. Still nothing. It was as if the system had never existed, but it had existed. The chart proved that. So what happened to it? He called up the current designation for that region of space. The coordinates matched perfectly, but the name was different. It was now called Quarantine Zone Omega-7, according to official records. The zone had been quarantined 297 years ago due to spatial anomalies. That made it dangerous to approach any ship entering. The zone without authorization would face immediate sanctions. Any civilization that violated the quarantine would be expelled from the Council. The penalties were severe, suggesting that whatever was in that zone was considered extremely dangerous. Turin sat back in his chair, his mind racing. A star system had been renamed and quarantined. All records of it had been systematically destroyed, and someone had implemented an erasure protocol that required total information. Quarantine. What could have been so dangerous that the Council would go to such extremes? He decided to ask the Council elders directly. Surely they would know the truth. The eldest Council members had been alive 300 years ago. They must remember what happened. The first elder he contacted was Vrax, a member of the Dominion who had served on the Council for 4 centuries. When Turin mentioned Quarantine Zone Omega-7, Vrax's 3 eyes widened. His scaled skin turned pale. "We do not speak of that place," Vrax said, his voice trembling. "Do not ask me about it again." The communication ended abruptly. Turin stared at the blank screen in shock. He had never seen Vrax afraid of anything. The old warrior had faced down rebellions and survived 3 assassination attempts. Yet the mere mention of the quarantine zone terrified him. Turin contacted 2 more elders. Both refused to discuss the zone. One of them, a gentle diplomat named Sareth, actually started crying before ending the call. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were all terrified of something that happened 300 years ago. Something was very wrong. Turin returned to the archives with new determination. He spent weeks searching for any reference to Sol, the erasure protocol, or anything connected to Quarantine Zone Omega-7. He found scattered pieces of information, like trying to complete a puzzle with most of the pieces missing. One fragment mentioned the Sol 3. Conflict. Another referenced technological acceleration beyond predicted limits. A third file, barely readable, contained a single sentence. They cannot be allowed to continue. Who were they? What had they done that was so terrible? The answer came from an unexpected source. While searching through military records, Turan found a supply manifest from 300 years ago. It listed massive deployments of weapons and ships to a sector of space. The same sector where Sol used to be, the galaxy had gone to war. A war so terrible that all records of it had been erased. Turan was preparing another search when every alarm in the archive suddenly activated. Red lights flashed across his displays. Emergency broadcasts flooded the communication channels. Something had triggered the Council's deep space warning system. He pulled up the sensor data, his hands shaking. What he saw made no sense. Dozens of vessels had just appeared at the edge of Council space. They had emerged from Quarantine Zone Omega-7, a place that was supposed to be empty and dead. The ships were using propulsion systems that didn't match any known technology. They were fast, incredibly fast, moving toward Council territory with clear purpose. The military command was already mobilizing, but Turan could hear the panic in their transmissions. No one knew what these ships were or where they came from. After 300 years of peace, the galaxy had forgotten how to respond to an unknown threat. Then the message came through. It broadcast on every frequency, in every known language of the Council. The translation systems worked perfectly, which meant whoever sent it understood galactic communication protocols. The voice was calm, almost friendly, but there was something beneath it. Something that made Turan's skin crawl. This is the human fleet to the Galactic Council. We are returning from Quarantine Zone Omega-7, previously known as the Sol System. Humanity has returned home after 300 years. We wish to talk. We wish to establish diplomatic relations. We wish to rejoin galactic civilization. The message repeated, over and over. Turan sat frozen in his chair. Humanity. That was the word missing from all the corrupted files. That was the they who could not be allowed to continue. That was the reason for the fear in the eyes of the Council elders. 300 years ago, the galaxy had tried to erase humanity from existence, and now humanity was back. The ancient terror had returned, and Turan realized with growing horror that his peaceful galaxy had been built on a terrible lie. Whatever the Council had done to humanity, they had thought it was permanent. They had thought they were safe. They were wrong. Outside the archive, alarms continued to wail as the galaxy scrambled to respond to an impossible threat. Turan looked at the corrupted files still glowing on his screen, then at the sensor readings showing the approaching human fleet. He had wanted to know the truth. Now he was about to discover just how terrible that truth really was. The Galactic Council met in emergency session on Sanctuary Prime, the most heavily fortified world in known space. Representatives from 200 species filled the great chamber, their voices rising in panic and confusion. The human fleet had stopped at the border of Council space, making no further moves. But their presence alone had thrown the galaxy into chaos. Turan watched from the archivist's balcony as the Council argued. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiations. A few of the eldest members sat in silence, their faces showing emotions Turan had never seen before. Shame, guilt, terror. Below him, the military coordinator was giving a report. Our defensive fleets are assembling at Rally Point Zenith, she said, her voice steady despite the crisis. We have called up reserves from every member system. Within 3 standard days, we will have the largest military force in 300 years. And will it be enough? Someone shouted from the crowd. The coordinator hesitated. Unknown. The human vessels use propulsion and shielding technology we cannot identify. Our sensors cannot penetrate their hulls. We have no data on their weapons capabilities. Then we are fighting blind, another representative said. Just like before. Before. The word hung in the air like poison. Turen leaned forward, his attention focused completely on the conversation. These people remembered something. They knew what had happened 300 years ago. The council's head elder, a Vrindian named Kosh, who had led the council for 2 centuries, finally spoke. His voice was old and tired. Archivist Turen, please come to the floor. Turen was surprised but obeyed. He made his way down to the main chamber, feeling hundreds of eyes watching him. When he reached the center platform, Kosh gestured to him. You have been investigating the old files, Kosh said. It was not a question. You have discovered that we erased records of humanity. You have found fragments of the truth. Now it is time you learned everything. Kosh produced a small data crystal, one that glowed with a strange blue light. This archive requires genetic verification from all 12 founding members of the council to open. I have gathered these verifications. The council agrees that you must know what we did. What we all did. Turen took the crystal with shaking hands. Why me? Because you are the only one who still believes in truth, Kosh said sadly. The rest of us have been living with our lies for too long. We need someone to bear witness. Someone to judge us. Back in the archive, Turen inserted the crystal into the main system. The 12 genetic locks disengaged one by one. The final seal broke with a sound like breaking glass, and information flooded onto his screens. He read through the night, and with each file, his horror grew. Humanity had first made contact with the Council 350 years ago. They came from a yellow star system in a quiet region of space. They called their world Earth, and they were explorers. Their first ships were slow and primitive by Council standards, but they were filled with curiosity and hope. The Council had welcomed them. Humanity seemed harmless. They were not particularly strong or fast. Their lifespans were short. Their technology was average. They fit well within the normal range of intelligent species, but humanity had one trait that no other species possessed to the same degree. They improved. They innovated. They refused to accept limits. A species typically took thousands of years to advance from primitive spaceflight to modern technology. Humans did it in decades. Every time the Council met with human representatives, they brought new inventions, new ideas, new ways of doing things that other species had never imagined, that it made some Council members uncomfortable. But most saw it as harmless enthusiasm. Young species were always excited about progress. They would calm down eventually. They all did. Then, the Krell Empire attacked the human colony world. The Krell were one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They had conquered a quarter of known space over millennia. Their military was vast and experienced. They saw the human colony as easy prey, a way to test their new weapons. The war lasted 3 months. Turen read the battle reports with disbelief. The first Krell fleet had arrived expecting quick surrender. Instead, the human colonists fought back with weapons that shouldn't have existed. Kinetic weapons that could pierce Krell shields. Electronic warfare that shut down entire ships. Tactics that no one had seen before. The Krell sent more fleets. Humanity responded by inventing better weapons. Each battle showed new technology, new strategies. The humans adapted faster than the Krell could respond. They turned the Krell's own weapons against them. They hacked Krell communication systems and spread disinformation. They struck at supply lines and command centers with surgical precision. In month 2, the Krell realized they were losing. They committed their full military might, pulling ships from across their empire. Surely overwhelming numbers would win. Humanity showed them the weapons they have been holding back. ships that could jump through space without using traditional FTL drives, missiles that created miniature black holes, AI systems that could outthink any organic mind. The Krell fleet was destroyed. In month 3, human ships appeared in orbit over the Krell homeworld. They made a simple demand: surrender completely or be erased. The Krell Empire, which had stood for 10,000 years, surrendered. But humanity did not want the Krell territory. They did not want conquest. They wanted something the Krell had never encountered before. They wanted to make sure it never happened again. The human diplomats came to the council with demands. All offensive military operations must cease across the galaxy. All civilizations must limit their military capabilities to defensive forces only. Disputes would be settled through arbitration, not war. The council would enforce these rules strictly, and if the council refused, the human representative had been very clear. Humanity had just destroyed the most powerful empire in the galaxy in 3 months. They could do the same to anyone else who threatened peace. The council agreed. What choice did they have? The rules that had governed the galaxy for the past 300 years, the rules that created the Great Peace, had all been demanded by humanity at gunpoint, but agreeing and accepting were different things. The council members were terrified. If humanity could advance so quickly during a 3-month war, what would they become in a decade? A century? Would they eventually decide that they should rule the galaxy instead of the council? The 12 founding members met in secret. They discussed the human problem for months. Some argued that humanity would calm down, that their rapid advancement would slow. Others believed humanity was an existential threat that would eventually consume the entire galaxy. In the end, fear won. The 12 members authorized the construction of a weapon, a device that could shift an entire star system into a parallel dimension. It would be as if the system never existed. Everything in it would be frozen in time, unreachable, gone. They tested it on an empty system first. It worked perfectly. Then they prepared to use it on Sol. The human diplomats were invited to a peace conference on Sanctuary Prime. While they traveled, the weapon activated. Earth, its moon, its entire solar system. 8 billion human beings, all of it vanished in an instant. The humans scattered across the galaxy. Those on ships and colonies and stations suddenly found themselves hunted. Council enforcers tracked them down systematically. Any records of humanity were destroyed. The word human was erased from every database. The Sol system was renamed and quarantined. It took 20 years to complete the erasure. When it was done, the council told itself that it had done what was necessary. Humanity was too dangerous to exist. Better to erase them completely than risk the galaxy's future. Turin sat back, his eyes burning with tears. The Great Peace, the Golden Age, all of it was built on genocide. The council had murdered billions of innocent people because they were afraid. They had erased an entire species from history. And now that species had returned. The question was no longer what humanity wanted. The question was, what would they do to the council that had tried to destroy them? The human fleet held its position at the border for 3 days. They made no aggressive moves. They did not advance into council space. They simply waited, their ships hanging in the void like patient predators. Every 12 hours, they repeated their message. Humanity wishes to talk. The council military surrounded them with every ship they could gather. Thousands of vessels formed a defensive perimeter, weapons charged and ready. But they did not attack. No one wanted to fire the first shot against an enemy. They did not understand. Turin had shared his discovery with the council leadership. Now they knew the full truth of what had been done. Some members wanted to flee. Others demanded a preemptive strike. But Elder Kosh made the final decision. "We will talk," he said. "We owe them that much. We owe them everything. The human fleet responded immediately to the Council's invitation. A single small ship detached from the formation and began moving towards Sanctuary Prime. It was sleek and white, with no visible weapons. As it approached the planet, it broadcast landing codes and requested permission to dock at the Council's main diplomatic facility. The military commanders advised against it. This could be a trap, they warned. We should meet them in neutral space, not at our capital. But Terran disagreed. They could have attacked us days ago. If they wanted to hurt us, we would already be dead. This is a test. They want to see if we are brave enough to face them. Kosh nodded slowly. Grant them permission to land. Terran was part of the receiving delegation. He stood in the landing bay with a dozen council representatives, all of them trying not to show their fear. The human ship settled onto the platform with barely a sound, its landing perfectly controlled. The airlock opened. 3 humans stepped out. Ren had seen images of humans in the old files, but seeing them in person was different. They were bipedal, like many species, with 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin was dark brown, light tan, and pale respectively. They wore simple uniforms of dark blue with silver insignias. They looked so ordinary, so harmless, but their eyes held the weight of 300 years. The woman in front stepped forward and bowed slightly. I am Ambassador Sarah Chun, representing the Human Collective. This is Commander James Okonkwo of the Human Fleet, and Dr. Sarah Voss, our Chief Scientist and Historian. Her voice was calm and professional. She spoke the common tongue perfectly, without any translator. That alone was impressive. Most species needed months to learn the language. Kosh stepped forward to greet them. Welcome to Sanctuary Prime. I am Kosh, head elder of the Galactic Council. We are glad you came. Chum smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Are you? I wonder. Please, shall we talk somewhere more private? They moved to a conference room deep within the council building. Security surrounded them, though everyone knew it was useless. If the humans wanted violence, no amount of guards would stop them. Once they were seated, Chum began speaking without preamble. 303 years ago, the Galactic Council erased Earth and the Sol system from normal space. 8 billion humans died instantly. Another 2 million were scattered across the galaxy, hunted and killed over the following decades. The Council then systematically destroyed every record of our existence. The room was silent. No one could deny it. The evidence was too clear. We know this, Kosh said quietly. We have no excuse for what was done. We were afraid. That fear led us to commit the greatest crime in galactic history. If you are here for revenge, we cannot blame you. Chun shook her head. We are not here for revenge. Revenge would be pointless. It would not bring back the dead. It would not undo the past. We are here because we want you to understand what really happened. Dr. Voss leaned forward. She tapped a control on the table, and a holographic display appeared in the air. When Earth vanished, it was not destroyed. The dimensional weapon shifted our entire solar system into a parallel dimensional space. Time stopped for us. From our perspective, one moment we were going about our normal lives. The next moment, we were frozen. But not all humans were on Earth, Commander Okonkwo continued. Millions were scattered across the galaxy. On colonies, trade ships, research stations, diplomatic missions. When Earth vanished, they found themselves stranded. Chun took over the narrative. The Council hunted them, systematically, quietly. Over 20 years, most were found and killed. But some survived. Some went into hiding so deep that even the Council could not find them. The hologram changed, showing images of hidden stations built in asteroid fields, disguised settlements on barren moons, humans living under false identities among other species. For 300 years, we survived in the shadows, Chun said. We built communities in places you never looked. We raised children and taught them about Earth, about humanity, about what was taken from us. And we worked. We studied. We learned. We advanced. You advanced, Aaron said softly. That is what the Council feared. Your ability to improve, to innovate. Yes, Dr. Voss said. And they were right to fear it, though not for the reasons they thought. We did advance. Faster than before. When you are fighting for survival, when your entire species faces extinction, you find ways to do the impossible. She tapped another control. The hologram showed complex equations and diagrams that Terran could not begin to understand. We studied the weapon that erased Earth. We recovered Krell technology from their abandoned worlds. We stole Council research from your databases. We combined it all with our own innovations. 50 years ago, we finally understood how the dimensional weapon worked. 100 years after that, we figured out how to reverse it. 3 months ago, we did it, Chun said. We punched through the dimensional barrier and pulled Earth back into normal space. The entire Sol system. Exactly as it was the moment it vanished. The implications hit Terran like a physical blow. 8 billion people. They were all still alive? From their perspective, no time had passed at all, Dr. Voss confirmed. One moment they were living their lives in the year 2422. The next moment, it was 2725, and we had to explain that 300 years had passed in an instant. How did they react? Kosh asked. How would you react? Commander Okonkwo said. They were angry, confused, terrified, but they were alive. And now they know the truth about what the Council did. Chun stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city of Sanctuary Prime. We've spent months explaining the situation to Earth's population, helping them understand what happened and what humanity has become. They have questions. They want answers. They want justice. What do you want? Terran asked. Chun turned back to face them. We want our seat on the Galactic Council. We want official recognition as a member species. We want you to publicly acknowledge what was done to us and why. We want every species in the galaxy to know that the Council committed genocide out of fear. That is all. Kosh sounded surprised. That is not all, Chun said. We also want you to dismantle every weapon and protocol that could be used to erase another species. We want new laws protecting technological advancement. We want to ensure that no Council member can ever again decide that a species is too dangerous to exist. And if we refuse? Someone asked. Commander Okonkwo smiled. It was not a friendly expression. Then you will discover what humanity has become after 300 years of fighting for survival. The ships you see at your border represent about 5% of our total fleet. The technology we used in the Krull War is primitive compared to what we have now. We do not want war, but we will not accept being erased again. You are threatening us, Kosh said. No, Chun corrected. We are giving you a choice. You can accept us as equals and work with us to build a better galaxy. Or you can try to destroy us again. The first option leads to peace and progress. The second option leads to a war you cannot win. She sat back down, her expression calm. We are not the species you remember. We are not harmless explorers anymore. We are survivors who have spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. We do not want revenge. We want justice. We want to make sure this never happens to anyone else. The room fell silent. Outside, Terran could hear the city going about its normal business, unaware that the fate of the galaxy was being decided in this room. Kosh looked at his fellow council members. Then he looked back at the humans. You have given us much to consider. We will need time to discuss this among the full council. You have 3 days, Chun said. After that, we will assume you have made your choice. As the humans left the room, Turin realized the terrible position they were in. If they refused humanity's demands, war was certain. But if they accepted, they would have to admit to the entire galaxy what they had done. The Great Peace would be revealed as a lie built on genocide. There were no good choices. Only the choice between truth and destruction. And Turin suspected that humanity had planned it exactly that way. The Galactic Council broke apart like ice under pressure. Within hours of the human delegation's demands, the unity that had lasted 300 years shattered completely. The chamber erupted in arguments. Representatives shouted at each other across the floor. Ancient alliances crumbled. New factions formed around a single question. Should they accept humanity's terms or fight? Turin watched it all from his position in the archives, monitoring dozens of communication channels at once. The galaxy was tearing itself apart. The Rax Dominion led the military faction. Their representative, a scarred warrior named Drax, stood before the council and declared that humanity must be destroyed before they grew stronger. They are already too powerful, Drax argued. In another century, they will be unstoppable. We must act now while we still can. The Setheri Collective agreed. Their speaker, a creature of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell, pulsed with red light as it spoke. They threaten the stability we have built, the peace we have maintained. If we show weakness now, other species will challenge us. The Council's authority will collapse. More than 60 species sided with the military faction. They began mobilizing fleets in secret, pulling ships away from the border and gathering them at hidden locations. They were preparing for war, but not everyone agreed. Turin found himself leading a coalition of species who saw the truth differently. He presented evidence he had uncovered while researching the Council's history. Files that showed humanity was not the first species the Council had suppressed. 70 years ago, the Jinth developed advanced AI systems, Turin said, displaying the records for all to see. The Council declared it too dangerous and forced them to destroy their research. When they refused, their home world was quarantined until they complied. He showed more examples. The Pelthians, who discovered a new form of faster-than-light travel, were forbidden from using it. The Korath, who created self-replicating mining machines, were ordered to shut them down. Over and over, the Council had suppressed innovation and advancement. We did not erase these species, Turin said, but we crippled them. We held them back out of fear. Humanity is not the threat. Our fear is the threat. Our willingness to destroy anything that challenges our comfortable stability. His coalition grew. Species who had been suppressed in the past joined them. Young civilizations who wanted the freedom to advance joined them. Even some of the older species, tired of living with the guilt of what had been done to humanity, joined them, but they were outnumbered. The military faction had more ships, more resources, more raw power. While the Council argued, the humans remained on Sanctuary Prime. They stayed in their small ship, making no demands, sending no messages. They simply waited. Turin visited them on the second day. He found Ambassador Chun in the ship's common area, reading from a datapad. She looked up as he entered and smiled. Archivist Turin. Please, sit. He settled into a chair designed for human proportions. It was surprisingly comfortable. I wanted to warn you. The military faction is planning an attack. They are gathering ships to strike your fleet at the border. Chun nodded calmly. We know. We have been monitoring their communications since we arrived. They are assembling approximately 2,000 warships, the largest military force in 300 years. You are not concerned? Should we be? Commander Okonkwo entered the room, carrying 2 cups of what Turin recognized as human coffee. He handed one to Chun and sat down. We have been preparing for this for 3 centuries. Did you think we came here without a plan? The fleet at the border, Turan said slowly. It is not your entire military, is it? Not even close, Chun confirmed. Those 50 ships are a diplomatic gesture, a show of good faith. If we had brought our full fleet, the council would have panicked. We wanted to give you a chance to choose peace. Okonkwo sipped his coffee. But we are not naive. We knew some of you would choose war. So we prepared for that too. How many ships do you have? Turan asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Enough, Chun said. More than enough. But numbers are not really the issue, are they? The issue is technology. We have had 300 years to innovate, while the rest of the galaxy stagnated under council regulations. The gap between us and you is wider than it was during the Krull War. She pulled up a holographic display. It showed the human fleet at the border. 50 ships, just as Tyrion had seen on the sensors. But then the display changed, showing what the sensors could not detect. Energy signatures hidden inside gravitational distortions. Weapon systems disguised as sensor arrays. Each ship was far more advanced than anything the Council possessed. We have not spent 300 years planning revenge, Chun said. We spent it making sure no one could ever erase us again. We spent it becoming something that could not be threatened, could not be intimidated, could not be destroyed. Then why give us a choice at all? Turan asked. Why not just take what you want? Okonkwo set down his cup. Because that would make us exactly what the Council feared. We would become conquerors, tyrants. We would prove that their genocide was justified. We want to prove them wrong, Chun added. We want to show that advancement does not equal aggression. That becoming powerful does not mean becoming evil. We want the galaxy to see that they were wrong to fear us. But if they attack you, if they attack us, we will defend ourselves, Chun said firmly. We will disable their ships without destroying them. We will prove our superiority without committing genocide. And then we will force them to accept our terms anyway. The choice they make now will determine how this ends, not whether it ends in our favor. Turan left the human ship with a heavy heart. He understood now why Chun seemed so calm. Humanity had already won. The only question was how many people would die before the Council accepted that fact. On the third day, the military faction made their move. 2,000 warships jumped to the border system where the human fleet waited. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Weapons charged and shields at maximum. Turan watched the battle from the Council's command center. The entire leadership was there, even those who opposed the attack. They needed to see what would happen. The human fleet did not scatter. They did not retreat. They simply waited as 2,000 warships surrounded them. The military faction's commander opened a channel. This is Fleet Commander Drax to the human vessels. You have threatened the peace and stability of the Galactic Council. You are ordered to surrender your ships and submit to Council authority. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. The response came from Commander Okonkwo. This is the human fleet to Council forces. We decline your offer. Stand down and return to your bases. This is your only warning. Drax laughed. You are outnumbered 40-1. Your arrogance will be your end. All ships, open fire. 2,000 warships fired simultaneously. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic weapons, everything they had. The combined firepower could have destroyed a planet. The human ships did not even. Ray shields. Turan gasped as the weapons simply stopped. Missiles froze in mid-flight. Energy beams bent around the human vessels, as if space itself was warped. Kinetic rounds slowed to a stop, then fell harmlessly away. Then the humans responded. They did not use weapons. Instead, each human ship emitted a pulse of energy that Turan's sensors could barely detect. The pulse washed over the Council fleet like a wave. Every Council ship went dark, not destroyed, just disabled. Power system shut down. Weapons offline. Life support on minimum. Communications dead. 2,000 warships, the pride of the galactic military, reduced to floating debris in seconds. The battle had lasted 17 minutes. Commander Okonkwo's voice came through on emergency channels. We have disabled your fleet. Crews are unharmed. Ships are intact. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. We could have killed every person aboard those vessels. We chose not to. Now you understand what we are capable of. Now you understand what restraint looks like. Then came Ambassador Chun's voice, broadcast to every world in Council space. The Galactic Council tried to erase humanity out of fear. We have returned not for revenge, but for justice. We have proven we could destroy you. We have chosen not to. Now you must choose what kind of galaxy you want to live in. One built on fear and suppression, or one built on truth and progress. You have until tomorrow to decide. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in silence as the human fleet waited among the disabled. Council warships dot in the command center on Sanctuary Prime. Turan looked at the shocked faces of the Council leadership. They had gambled on violence and lost. They had tried to destroy humanity a second time and failed. Now they would have to face the truth. And the truth, Turan knew, was far more terrifying than any weapon humanity possessed. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began at dawn on Sanctuary Prime. Every representative was present. No one dared to be absent. The chamber that had once echoed with confident voices was now filled with fearful silence. 2,000 disabled warships floated at the border. Their crews rescued by automated systems, but their pride shattered. The military faction that had demanded war now sat quietly, unable to meet anyone's eyes. They had promised victory and delivered humiliation. Elder Kosh stood at the center platform, looking older than Turan had ever seen him. We have a decision to make, he said. Not about whether to accept humanity's terms. We have no choice in that matter. They have proven they could destroy us at any time. No, we must decide who we are, what we will become, whether we will face the truth or continue living in our comfortable lies. He gestured to Tahiran. Archivist, please present your findings to the full council. Turan stepped forward, his data files ready. For hours, he presented the evidence he had gathered, not just about humanity, but about every species the council had suppressed over the centuries. The pattern was clear and damning. Whenever a species advanced too quickly, the council found ways to slow them down. Regulations were created. Technologies were banned. In extreme cases, civilizations were quarantined or their leaders replaced. All in the name of stability. All out of fear. We told ourselves we were preserving peace, Turan said. We told ourselves we were protecting the galaxy from dangerous technology. But the truth is simpler and uglier. We were protecting ourselves from change. We were so comfortable with our power that we could not tolerate anyone who might challenge it. He displayed the images of Earth's erasure, the weapon activating, the soul system vanishing, 8 billion lives ending in an instant. And when suppression was not enough, we committed genocide. We erased an entire species because we were afraid of their potential. We did not destroy them for what they had done. We destroyed them for what they might become. The chamber was silent. Some representatives wept openly. Others stared at the floor, unable to face the truth. Then Ambassador Chun entered the chamber. She had not been invited, but no one tried to stop her. She walked calmly to the center platform and stood beside Turan. 300 years ago, she began, my ancestors came to you, offering friendship. They wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves. They wanted to share discoveries and learn from other species. They were idealists who believed in galactic cooperation. She paused, letting her words sink in. You responded by trying to erase them from existence. You murdered 8 billion people. You hunted down the survivors like animals. You destroyed every record of our existence. We know, Kosh said quietly. We have no defense for what we did. Good, Chun said, because I am not here to listen to excuses. I am here to tell you what happens next. She pulled up a holographic document. It floated in the air above the platform, visible to everyone in the chamber. This is the new covenant, a set of laws and principles that will govern the Galactic Council moving forward. You will vote to accept it, all of it, without changes. The document outlined sweeping reforms. The Council's military would be reduced to defensive forces only. No species could be quarantined or suppressed for technological advancement. All decisions would be made transparently, with full records available to every member species. And most importantly, the truth about Earth's erasure would be taught in every school, on every world, as a warning about the dangers of governance through fear. This is not negotiable, Chun said. These terms are final. You will accept them, or you will face the consequences. And what are those consequences? Someone asked. Will you erase us as we erased you? Chun's expression hardened. No, we will not become you, but we will dismantle the Council. We will release every species you have suppressed. We will share our technology freely with anyone who wants it. Within a generation, the Council will be irrelevant. You will have no power, no authority, no purpose. She let that sink in. Or you can accept the new covenant. You can work with us to build a better galaxy. One where advancement is celebrated, not feared. Where change is embraced, not suppressed. Where no species has to live in terror of being erased for the crime of being too successful. Drax stood up, his scales still pale from the shame of his failed attack. Why you offer us this choice? Why not just destroy us and take what you want? Commander Okonkwo, who had entered with Chun, spoke up. Because that is what you would do. That is what the Krell would have done. But we are not you. We are better than that. We have to be better, or 300 years of survival meant nothing. We want you to choose the right path, Chun added. Not because you are forced to, but because you understand it is right. We want you to change not from fear, but from understanding. The vote took 3 hours. Species after species stood and cast their decision. Some voted yes immediately, eager to make amends. Others hesitated, struggling with their pride, but ultimately accepted. When the final count was tallied, the new covenant passed with unanimous support. The galaxy had chosen truth over comfort, change over stagnation, progress over fear. Over the following months, the reforms took effect. The Council's military was reduced to small defensive fleets. The dimensional weapon and other weapons of mass erasure were dismantled under human supervision. Files that had been sealed for centuries were opened and made public. The truth about Earth spread across the galaxy. Some species reacted with horror and shame, others with anger at having been lied to for so long. Protests erupted on several worlds, demanding that those responsible for the genocide face justice. But the humans urged restraint. The ones who made the decision are long dead, Dr. Voss pointed out. Punishing their descendants solves nothing. What matters is that we learn from this, that we do better. Earth was officially recognized as a council world. Humanity took its seat among the other species, not as conquerors, but as equals. The first human council representative was a woman named Maria Santos, who had been born during the long years in hiding and had spent her entire life working for this moment. Human technology began to spread. Medical advances that could cure diseases that had plagued other species for millennia. propulsion systems that made space travel faster and cheaper, agricultural techniques that could feed billions, all shared freely with no restrictions, no demands for payment. Some species resented humanity's sudden prominence. They grumbled that humans were taking over, that they were too influential, too powerful. But they could not deny the benefits. The galaxy was changing, and most of the changes were positive. 5 years after humanity's return, Turin stood in his archive watching a documentary about the new covenant. He had been promoted to Earth's official liaison to the Council, a position that required him to split his time between Sanctuary Prime and Earth itself. He had visited Earth several times now, walked streets where billions of people went about their lives, unaware of how close they had come to permanent extinction, met survivors of the long exile, people who had spent their entire lives fighting for this moment, attended memorials for the millions who had died during the erasure and the hunt that followed. A young student approached him as the documentary ended. She was Vrindian, the same species as Elder Kosh. Her assignment was to interview Duran about the events of 5 years ago. Why did the Council try to erase Earth? She asked, her voice curious but not judgmental. She had been too young to carry the guilt of what her elders had done. Turan considered the question carefully. He had been asked it hundreds of times, and his answer was always the same. Because they saw humanity's greatest strength and mistook it for a threat, he said. Humans refuse to accept limits. They refuse to be told that something is impossible. When they face a problem, they do not give up. They find a way. They innovate. They improve. They make tomorrow better than today, no matter what it costs. He gestured to the city outside the archive windows. The Council was comfortable. They had built a stable, peaceful galaxy. They did not want that to change. And then humanity arrived, showing them that change was inevitable. That progress could not be stopped. That the universe would keep moving forward, whether they liked it or not. They were afraid, the student said. Yes, and fear made them do terrible things. But the Council learned. Slowly, painfully, at terrible cost, but they learned. That is why we teach this history now. That is why every student in the galaxy learns about Earth's erasure. Not to make you feel guilty, but to make sure it never happens again. The student nodded thoughtfully. Do you think humanity has forgiven us? Turan smiled. I think humanity understands that forgiveness is less important than change. They care more about building a better future than punishing past crimes. That is their real strength. Not their weapons or their technology. Their ability to look forward even when they have every reason to look back in anger. After the student left, Turan stood alone in the archive. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. From discovering corrupted files to witnessing humanity's return. From learning the terrible truth to helping build a new future. The galaxy would never be the same. The comfortable stagnation of the past 300 years was over. In its place was uncertainty, change, and possibility. Some species struggled with that. Others embraced it. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never forget Earth's name again. Not out of fear, but because humanity refused to let the universe stand still. They pushed forward, always forward, dragging the rest of the galaxy with them, whether it wanted to go or not. And perhaps Turan thought that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Not comfortable stability, but the constant push towards something better. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to face fear and move forward anyway. Outside his window, ships from 100 species came and went. Human vessels mingled with Rindian, Setheri, Rax, and countless others, trading, sharing, learning, building something new together. The Great Peace had been built on genocide and lies. This new era would be built on truth and progress. It would be messy. It would be difficult. It would be uncomfortable. But it would be real. And it would be better. Turin returned to his work, organizing the newest files in the archive. The truth about humanity. The truth about the Council. The truth about what fear could make good people do. All of it preserved, all of it available, all of it taught. Because the only thing worse than a terrible past was forgetting that past and being doomed to repeat it. And as long as humanity was watching, as long as they kept pushing forward, as long as they refused to accept that the universe could not be better, the galaxy would never forget again.